I don't have to live for a higher being. I live for myself.
Okay. So, what is the purpose of your life? What's driving you? What is your faith in? What's the object of your faith? Because obviously you have faith. Every atheist, every agnostic, every hedonist, narcissist, humanist, rationalist, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, we all have faith. In other words, we all are living for something. We're all motivated, right? If you weren't motivated, you'd be lying in bed at home committing suicide. Obviously you're motivated. So, what are you living for, or who are you living for? And secondly, what's the evidence? This big bunch of evidence, it's obviously superior to evidence for the existence of God. What's this evidence that convinces you that whatever the object is reliable?
Well, I think that's a fallacy, because you're saying, what is the evidence for the thing I'm living for? But I'm not living for some being that exists, per se. I'm living because I'm alive.
I mean,
what more is there?
Because you're alive.
Right.
What does that mean?
Exactly. I mean, what does
You said it, I didn't say it. So explain what you mean.
I'm alive.
Yeah? And you're living because you're alive?
Yes.
Have you ever asked yourself, why should I not commit suicide?
Because why would I commit suicide? Why would I end my life?
Well, according to Camus, Albert Camus, when you begin to grapple with the meaninglessness, the absurdity of life, then you begin to realize, why should I continue to suck wind? Why continue to work? It's all meaningless. I mean, think about it. You're living to live. Okay, fine. So Hitler lived to live and he slaughtered Jews. Mother Teresa lived to live and she worked among the dying in Calcutta, India. Does it matter which one you choose? Just live to live, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're Hitler or Teresa. Just live, right? So you can't convince me that's really what's going on between those two handsome ears, sir. There is something a lot more to your life than I'm living to live. Yeah, we all are living because we're alive. Obvious. No, sir, that is not what drives you. You're a motivated person. You would not be a student here if you weren't motivated. So what's motivating you? In other words, what are you living for? In other words, what are you worshiping? To worship simply means to consider ultimately worthy. So what is ultimately worthy in your life?
Before I answer that, I would like you to answer my original question, because you sort of sidestepped it. I was asking, why should I be punished? I never made the choice to lose my faith. I can't force myself to believe in a God. So why should I be punished for something that is completely out of my hands? And furthermore, if rationality is a gift from God, why should I be punished for using that gift? And it's in no way an active choice.
Okay. You see, sir, I was answering you head to head. What I'm trying to point out to you, sir, is the evidence for God's existence is so superior to the evidence of whatever it is, whatever other option you've chosen. It's scary. And that's why you're struggling to answer my question, which was an answer to your question. And if you'll just think it through...
Oh, my goodness.
All right, I'll put it this way again for you. I was invited to speak in a humanities class at Columbia University in New York City. And this humanities class was being taught by a postdoc student from England. Brilliant guy. So after speaking in this humanities class, I'm walking out with this postdoc guy at Columbia, and I say, you know, this was a fascinating class, Professor. I really appreciated the way you ran it. Let me ask you, what are you living for? And what's the evidence that what you're living for is reliable? And I love this guy. He had the honesty to look me in the face and say, I cannot answer your question. But you see, sir, obviously what I'm doing is I'm challenging the living daylights out of you intellectually. When you stand out here and say to me, the evidence for the existence of God is so lacking that I just can't believe in God anymore. Because you see, what you're saying is, before I believe, I got to have X amount of evidence. And in order for me to believe, I must have X amount of evidence. Fine, I got no problem with that. But I'm going to have a real problem intellectually with you if you can't tell me now what you are living for and how it's supported by X amount of evidence.
The difference is, so let's say I said I want to live to make the world a better place, right? That's not a supernatural claim. That's a personal goal. They're not even comparable in any way. You can't say there's evidence to live to make the world a better place. that's not even conceptually remotely similar to saying that there is a supernatural being who conducts all minute details of the universe.
Sir, if you stand there and tell me, Cliff, the purpose of my life is to make this world a better place, you will be making an incredible faith statement. Who defines what's better?
Right, it's personally subjective.
Oh, yeah. You talk about opening the door for human arrogance. It's incredible.
Sure.
You talk about opening the door for colonialism and imperialism. You know, we folks, we will inform the world what's better. We Americans, we white folk, right? Yeah, baloney, right? So, you see how much faith you have when you say, the purpose of my life is to make this world a better place. Well, who defines better? Americans? White Americans? Republicans? Democrats?
How about me?
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think you are? You think you have the ability to tell the world how they can live a better life?
No, it wouldn't be me telling the world. It would be me, myself, saying, I believe that my life has had value.
No, that's not what you said.
And you're
You
still
said
not
the purpose
answering
of
the
my
original
life is to
question.
make this world a better place.
According
Fine.
to my own standards.
Good. Who on earth do you think you are to inform the world that your definition of better is correct?
People don't necessarily have to agree with me. I don't see what this has anything to do with the existence of God.
It doesn't have anything to do with the existence of God. It has everything to do with your faith, which is not backed up by much evidence.
But it's...
In fact, it has so much less evidence than the evidence for the existence of God, it's scary. So I'm waiting. Please give me the evidence that the purpose of life is to make this world a better place. Who defines better?
Once again, they're completely incomparable claims.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that.
I'm going to set a goal for myself, and this is how I'm going to live my life. The other is a supernatural, objective claim.
Mm-hmm.
They're literally not comparable.
That was not my point. You've missed my whole point. My point was a response to your statement. The reason that I cannot believe in God is because of lack of evidence. And I say, fine. What I hear you saying is you're such a rationalist, which I appreciate. You're going to use your mind, and before you believe someone or something, you demand evidence.
Right.
Sorry, God, you've not given me enough evidence, therefore I cannot believe. But sir, what does that imply? It clearly implies before I believe anyone, anything, any philosophy, I have to have X amount of evidence. And because God has not produced X amount of evidence, I cannot believe in God? Fine. Give me the better alternative that's backed up by all this evidence. I'm waiting.
But I'm not that... You can't say something exists just because there's no alternative.
It's not my point.
So what is your point?
You have said, I studied the issue of God. Not enough evidence.
Yeah.
When you say not enough evidence, you are clearly saying, before I believe in something, I need X amount of evidence. Fine. God didn't meet your standard. I understand. No problem. Now, as a fellow thinking human being searching for truth, please tell me the object of your faith and how it's this preponderance of evidence that has convinced you that this is a worthy philosophy, a worthy object of your worship, your faith. That's all I'm asking.
Can you clarify that? Because it seems extremely vague
Yes.
right now.
I understand a guy who says, the purpose of my life is to get a good education so I can get a high-paying job, so I can have a large stock portfolio, so I can make a lot of money. And I say, why? And they say, because money brings me power. It is the way I define success. Money is the key. I understand the person who says, Cliff, I'm sorry, I don't believe in Christ. Instead, I live to party, party, party. I have sex with as many people as I can. I do drugs, I do alcohol. The purpose of my life is to stimulate my nerve endings. Where's the next party? That's the purpose of their life. Physical pleasure. It's called hedonism. I understand the person who says, it's all about me. My life is all about me. My comfort, my pleasure, my success. It's called narcissism. I understand, and there's the evidence. Is there evidence that money brings you a lot of pleasure and comfort in life? Absolutely yes. Is there a lot of evidence that physical pleasure and stimulating your nerve endings is fun? Absolutely yes. Is there evidence that living for myself can be very gratifying? Absolutely yes. There's evidence. My point is, the evidence of God's existence and the evidence of the reliability of Jesus Christ is so superior to evidence for materialism, hedonism, or narcissism, it ain't even close. Not even close.
And I reply once again that doesn't even make sense to compare the two, because one is a personal philosophy, the way I'm going to live my life. There's no such thing as evidence for that, like saying I'm going to live my life to have fun. You can't have evidence for that, because that's just a way to live your life. God is a supernatural claim about the universe for which there can and should be observable evidence.
And my point is, show me the evidence. Show me the money to back up whatever philosophy you have thought is more reliable than faith in Christ. Explain to me.
No.
Why?
You can't just say, like, no, it doesn't even make sense. Like,
sir, fine. You can say that, I respect that.
Okay.
I don't make sense, but I've got to respond to you honestly, okay? And I don't mean to put you down,
okay,
but this is honestly what I'm convinced you are. You are intellectually dishonest.
How so?
If I were to say to this guy, you say you want to be my friend. Guess what, sir? There ain't enough evidence. There ain't enough evidence that you really care about me, that you're really reliable. Therefore, I don't want to be your friend. But I'll be his friend. Wow, Cliff, it must mean that you have evidence that he's reliable and a great guy in a way that this guy's not. No, I don't. I just choose to be his friend and choose to wipe him out. That is so intellectually dishonest, it's scary. If I'm going to say there's too much evidence that this guy is a thief or is going to use me and manipulate me, therefore I'm going to be very careful about him. I'm not going to trust him, but I'll trust him carte blanche. I don't know who he is really, but I just trust him. I am so intellectually dishonest. It's scary. I better be intellectually consistent and say, all right, if the evidence is lacking that this guy is a trustworthy guy, I got no evidence that he's trustworthy, but I'm going to blindly trust him. That's intellectually dishonest.
And I agree, but I think that's a false analogy. And I would say that choosing a path for your own life and forming your own personal philosophy on how you're going to live your life is, I mean, I don't know, I sound like a broken record, but that's completely incomparable to a supernatural claim about the universe. And a personal philosophy doesn't need
I'll say it one more time, sir, and I'm going to have to go on, okay?
Sir,
it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with evidence.
Right.
Your whole argument was not enough evidence.
Right.
For God.
Right.
Fine. Well, I'm just boring in on evidence. That's all I'm doing. Forget about the comparability of different philosophies. That's not the point. You're missing the whole point. That's not the point, okay?
Okay.
The point is evidence. And that's why I use the analogy, evidence. I better not have double standards.
Agreed.
I better not say, you know something, $1 million on my doorstep, and then I'll be your friend. You? I don't care. Do whatever you want to, I'll be your friend. No. That's not consistent. That's not clear thinking. So if you're going to apply some test to the existence of God, but you're not going to apply those tests to whatever other philosophy you're deciding, it's intellectually dishonest.
And I agree, but the existence of God is not. While yes, like religion is a personal philosophy on how to live your life.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about the personal philosophy on how to live your life. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking solely about God as a supernatural concept. And me making the decision, like I have a desire to do X. I don't need evidence to have that desire. I simply have that desire. A better analogy would say if there are two claims, and if I accepted one claim about the universe without evidence, and this other claim I rejected because of lack of evidence, that would be hypocritical. But me choosing how to live my life, you can't hold a personal philosophy to the same standard as a supernatural claim about the universe.
Okay, then maybe this will help. When you're confronted by Jesus Christ, you're not confronted by a philosophical concept. When you're confronted by Jesus Christ, you're not confronted by an indefinite deity. When you're confronted by Jesus Christ, you're confronted by someone who's claiming to be God in human form, and he scares the tar out of you and me because of the definite nature of his commands. I have a good buddy who works for Goldman Sachs on Wall Street. He was a student at Harvard, and at Harvard he was an atheist. And I asked him, why were you an atheist when you were at Harvard? He said, it's real simple. I wanted to do anything I wanted to do, ethically, sexually, morally. I realized that if I believed in God, Jesus Christ, that was not an option. Therefore, I had to figure out a worldview where I wasn't coming in internal conflict between what I believed and how I live. And I realized that atheism is the quickest way for me to justify doing whatever I want to do.
All right, well, that's a beautiful straw man, but
You're not a straw man, you're one of my good friends.
I never made the choice to be an atheist.
Who made the choice for you?
I mean, if rationality is a gift from God, then God made that choice.
Baloney. You're lying to yourself and to me. You made the decision and you know that. The same way I made a decision to believe in Christ.
I could physically not actively make myself believe in something that conflicts with my rationality.
Good.
I could tell myself I believe in God,
right,
but that wouldn't mean that I actually do.
I understand. Obviously, I'm convinced that due to the first question I asked you, that you got to be going home and being a bit more honest with yourself. Something else is going on. Because I asked you, what do you believe in and what's the evidence? And you came up with a goose egg. So something else is going on. I mean, if you'd stood there and said, sure, Cliff, no problem. This is what I'm living for, and here's all the evidence that this is the purpose of life, I'd have nothing to say. But you didn't do that, sir. You said there's a lack of evidence for God's existence. I say, fine, I got no problem. You really want to know truth. Lack of evidence, you don't believe in God. So what's the alternative that you've chosen to believe in, and what's the evidence that your alternative is true? And you gave me a goose egg, sir. Nothing. Is that intellectual honesty? I don't think so, not for me.